This month sees the release of the 11th entry in the Mortal Kombat franchise, which of course means more fatalities. But does loving those goopy, gory finishing moves mean you're on the fast track to misanthropy like your youth pastor always said? Your Aunt June heavily suggested your parents but would never mention directly to your face? It can't be, right? I love violent video games, you love violent video games, that means violent video games might be awesome. Mortal Kombat was a major hit when it was released in 1992, in part due to its boundary-pushing use of graphic violence, which immediately generated controversy and made it an easy scapegoat for finger-pointing politicians. In fact, the controversy was partially responsible for the creation of the ESRB and the game's rating system as we know it today. And Nintendo even notoriously censored the game for home release on their Super NES system. It was also the reason I wasn't allowed to play Mortal Kombat until college. Thanks a lot, Aunt June. So, if video game violence is so gosh darn scary, why do we love it so much? Well, it turns out we love it because it's kind of scary. As Iowa State University professor Douglas Gentile put it, there are two things that force us to pay attention. One is violence, the other is sex. That is true! Whenever either of these are present in our environment, they have survival value for us. Playing violent video games causes our brain to generate chemicals like noradrenaline, testosterone, and cortisol. The same chemicals that would create an adrenaline rush for an actual fight, but in the safety of your home. It turns out a little bit of heightened stress when you know you're safe can be fun for the whole family. Like roller coasters, except not for me because they make my tum-tum feel icky. I'll keep my noradrenaline indoors, thank you very much. That said, I love a lot of things that are no good for me. Cookie dough ice cream ain't making me any thinner. So, are violent video games as bad as Aunt June always passive-aggressively suggested? Well, it used to be widely accepted that violent video games were harmful. Psychologist Craig Anderson, in particular, has a bone to pick with video games. In a study published in 2010, he stated, "The effects are that exposure to violent video games increases the likelihood of aggressive behavior in both short-term and long-term contexts. Such exposure also increases aggressive thinking and aggressive effect, and decreases pro-social behavior." Somebody wasn't invited to a lot of dorm parties. He's also on the record comparing the dangers to children from violent video games to that of exposure to secondhand smoke. It's worth mentioning that Anderson is a professor of psychology from Iowa State University, just like our pal Professor Gentile, who has a different perspective. Take the killers at Columbine High School. They had been bullied, they had psychiatric illnesses, and yes, they also consumed a lot of media violence. No one of those things was the cause. I think what Professor Gentile is trying to say here is that the causes for real-world violence are complicated and multifaceted. You can't just park all the blame at the door of media violence because that's a distraction from harder discussions and real solutions. It turns out a lot of that early research is at least partially flawed and fueled by hysteria. Most modern research points to no. Violent video games don't make violent people. Violent crime in the United States has actually declined in the 3 decades since Mortal Kombat made its initial bloody splash. In 1991, there was an all-time high of murders in America at 25,000. In 2016, there were a little over 17,000. Controversial opinion? Still too many murders. Let's get that number down to a goose egg, America, we can do it. Not only that, some research shows that consumption of violent video games decreases real-world violence. And for the most part, the countries that consume the most video games have, statistically, the lowest crime rates. Except for the United States. Look at that, we're way up there on the violence scale. Because of course we are. Maybe we're dealing with issues more complicated than the video game industry. Someone should look into that. I'd also like to point out that violent video games aren't exactly dominating the market the same way they dominate the conversation. Yes, GTA 5 is one of the top-selling games of all time, and Call of Duty is one of the biggest worldwide franchises. But if you look at the other titles topping the charts, it's mostly the Marios, Minecrafts, and Pokemon. Alright, violent video games may not be dragging us to hell, where of course we'd be able to shoot badass demons in the face, but are they helping us at all? It turns out they are. Gaming can be beneficial to your health, both physical and mental. Yes, even violent video games. Take that, Aunt June. Gaming can enhance your ability to learn, improve your hand-eye coordination, and improve your focus and attention. In fact, more action-oriented games, aka violent games, may actually benefit your eyesight and motor skills. A group playing the first-person shooter Unreal Tournament over a 6-month period improved their driving ability more and drove safer than those who played Mario Kart for the same period. Now I'm forced to question all the skills I thought I learned from Mario. Tennis, soccer, party. Video games can also help with the player's emotional well-being. As psychologist Bernie Good notes, we're seeing these kinds of games whereby the player can relate to the characters, the storyline, and its impact on their emotional well-being, particularly if they are isolated themselves. Many games with the most sophisticated storytelling can also be pretty violent. So are violent video games awesome? Well, that depends on the player. Maybe we should keep GTA out of the hands of the kiddies until they are old enough to successfully drive stolen cars in the real world. For me, the answer is a resounding yes. I love violent video games. Usually more mature games have better storylines that are action-packed and cathartic. A perfect way for me to blow off steam after a long day of watching violent movies. They also don't make me more aggressive to my fellow man. Or do they? You haven't seen my co-host Sam this entire video, have you?
Oops. I've been here the whole time, buddy.
Oh, hey, man. Hey. That said, if you are struggling with violent feelings, there are definitely resources for you that you can find in the description down below. Because the only thing more awesome than violent video games is being mentally healthy. That is true! Now, to celebrate the fact that the 5 months it's taken me to beat Red Dead Redemption isn't gonna turn me into a murderous rage monster, let's go watch some MK11 fatalities.
What? Oh, it's so much worse closing my eyes. Yeah, fatality. Are you kidding me? Excuse me.
Oh, the Achilles heel. Oh.
Punch right through his face.
Can't do that. Leave him alone.
Oh, no way. Whoa, that's cool as heck, dude.
Now, at what point do you think you actually die in that so you don't get to feel it anymore?
Oh, never mind. No, what's gonna happen?
This is amazing. This is so creative. These get better and better.
It's a healthy heart. That's a shame. He had his whole life ahead of him.
Oh! He face bombed the guy's face off and the brain went with it.
What's that? What is it? What's happening? What happened? What happened?
Just take that vertebrae right out of there. You don't need it anymore.
Wow. Talk about a headache.
I think that was a brutal. I don't even think that was a fatality. I think the person's supposed to be able to come back from that.
Oh, I love this. Ew!
That's calculated. See ya, bud. Thanks for playing. These are wild.
All right, let us know what you think in the comments down below. And if you have a differing opinion, please let us know and feel free to cite your sources. You can check out our sources in the description down below.
You can also like this video and subscribe to Might Be Awesome. We have a bunch of content coming out, so maybe hit that bell notification icon.
And if you want to be social with us, you can check us out at Might Be Social on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want us to answer your questions, you can check out the Only Stupid Answers podcast, where Sam and I dive into everything pop culture related.
I'm Sam Basher.
And I'm DJ Wooldridge. Thank you for joining us, and I see you